Stacy Tonkin with Beyond the Table. We have Dr. Q, Tom Rossman here. He's been in the game for over 40 years. He helps lots of players, as we know, in the APA and all of the different leagues. He is a great trick shot artist, world champion trick shot artist. He's also a great player of the game three cushion and pool, and he's going to give us some advice on our mental game today and see if we can answer some of these questions. Dr. Q, do you have anything to say before we start?
Well, first, I want to thank you, Stacy, for this opportunity and for making me only 50 years old because you said 40 years. I started when I was 10, I'm 75. So I think that probably adds up to 40. And I've been doing this since I was 10 as a rack boy. So thank you for that
Wow.
compliment. I appreciate it.
I'm still a little bit of a beginner here, so we'll see. Okay, so lots of players are going to want to know about the mental game. So some of the questions we have today are, the first one is, what mental tricks help you stay calm when you're playing in front of a crowd and you start to feel a little bit nervous? If you feel nervous at all, because playing as long as you have, you may not.
Well, I think you still have to have a little bit of apprehension, so to speak, or you have to be just a shade nervous, but not to the point where it affects your mechanics and stuff.
Right.
One of the things that in 2016, I wrote a manual called Student of the Game and Life, and it's primarily a mental manual along with the heart manual. And the three games address this issue of what's being taught is the first game I teach is game of the heart. If the heart isn't kind of relaxed. And if you kicked the dog last night, there's no way you're going to play a good game of pool because mentally you're thinking about the dog yet. All right. So
Yeah.
what I do is I first take care of the heart issue, and that can be done in many ways. But I have a spiritual walk as well. But the bottom line is everything in the heart tries to convert to a free thinking, good-willed choice decision in the brain. So if you're sitting there in a match, you approach the match in whatever way, shape, or form and you're nervous or you have this thing lingering in your mind, then you have to clean up before you even get to the match. Now that's a little bit difficult when you get there, and I've got some other ways to handle that. But the first thing is I don't get too nervous because I feel I'm blessed just to be there. The sights and sounds of the balls and the colors of the rainbow and I call them birds chirping when they roll across the table. Those things put me at peace. So I focus in on the things that I was taught as a rack boy at the age of 10 by a lady named Elsie at Elsie's Pool Room. And she taught me focus on those two things, the sound of the balls clicking against each other. If you have a little bit of click, it's like a
Yeah.
sparrow. And if you have a big click, it's a crow. And if you watch the balls, there's actually the colors of the rainbow. You have the solids, which are, Roy G. Biv in the acronym for the name of the rainbow. And then you have on the stripes, you have that as well. So the bottom line is I focus on those two things. Even when I get to the table, I'm looking at those, and I don't even really see my opponent to speak of after that.
Wow, that's really great. This is some of the stuff that you're talking about. I remember you taught me years ago in Fred Fechter's and the sound, the
That's
smell,
right.
and that really helps. It helps me a lot because I mean I'm only a 552 and I haven't been playing, at top pro level for a long, long time, but I'm still able to go and win tournaments and compete and beat people because I think the mental game a lot helps me to really zero in. I'm so grateful to be at the game and at the table. And I always tell people how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if you're a maniac in your everyday life and you're crazy and chaotic and stressed out, and then you think you're going to go to the table and be like a relaxed Buddhist, right? Like it's just not going to
Yeah.
happen because
No.
your whole life has to kind of mesh together and correlate. So that's really great advice. And we're going to go to question two. How do you reset your mind after you make a mistake during an event?
Well, actually, now that's a great question, but I actually have never made a mistake in 30 years. And let me explain that a little different. Every mistake that I make is a success in disguise. In other words, when I miss a shot,
So good.
I look at that as just a new shot. Most people say, oh, we're pool players, they got to go in the pocket. But how many balls that you shoot that don't go in the pocket, that's just a new Picasso. And what we do is we don't look at it that way. We look at it as something that, oh, it didn't do what I was supposed to do. But at that moment, listen, we're going to have a flat tire in life, okay? So what I try to do is I try to focus on the three good ones yet. And when you focus on the three good ones, then what happens is that the things that are flat in your life or the misses in your life become those stepping stones to the success in your life. So that's really what I'm looking at. And one of the ways I do that when it comes to an actual game when I'm in a match, and I don't play a lot anymore, but the bottom line is when I'm having an issue, There are four things in the pool game that if I sit in a chair after something goes wrong, I envision four foundational principles that haven't changed for 500 years. And
Okay.
they're very simple. The first one is balls are round, so they're going to roll. And sometimes we think they turn into a square piece of concrete or something. All right. So that's the first thing. I close my eyes for 5 seconds and I envision this ball rolling across the table. So I know, oh, that's good. It's still that way. It hasn't changed. The second thing is, I watch a ball in my mind's eye. I close my eyes. I see the ball hit a cushion and it bounces. Now, I think that's pretty cool because the reason it bounces is because there's rubber in the rail yet. And if it wasn't rubber, we'd have a problem with balls bouncing. So we can be thankful for that. The third thing is that I put a ball and I actually drop it in the pocket in my mind's eye when I'm closing my eyes, and I hear it drop. That means that gravity's still in existence. We're not flying into outer space. The gravity's still holding us here, and it's still allowing balls to drop in the pocket. And the fourth thing is that I envision is I look at this table in my mind's eye, and I actually see the pockets not moving, and that's kind of neat because that means we're not in a shooting gallery. So, so the bottom line is, even though technically we're moving in a bigger picture of creation, in that limited space we're in around the pool table, those pockets are not moving, even though we think they did move because we missed the shot.
Yeah.
So those four things, Stacey, it takes about 5 seconds total. You're in a chair, and you got at least 30 seconds to a minute before the next player comes back before the player comes back to the table. So that gives you time to close your eyes, watch the ball roll in your mind, hit a cushion and bounce, ball dropping and pockets not moving. Open your eyes, do it again for 5 to 10 seconds. Do that 3 times. By the time you get back to the table, you won't remember what actually happened to allow you to shoot yourself in the foot.
That's great. Well, visualization, right, too. That's really
Well,
important.
that is
Yeah,
visualization. It's
that's
in the
visualization.
mind's eye of the brain when you close your mind. In other words, if I ask everybody watching here, is if you tell me what an eight ball looks like, you're going to tell me what an eight ball looks like, and it's not even in front of you. So
Right,
the
right,
bottom
right.
line is you have this mind's eye view of everything. You know what the smell of a skunk is because you've smelled one before, and you know what that flat tire is, and you know it. So what I try to do is I asked the person one time. I said, "What do you do when you've got this skunky smell in your game? How do you fix it?" And this guy, and I didn't really, I had answers, good stuff, but he says, "Well, you just smell a bunch of perfume." And what happens is,
That's a
if you
good,
have something wrong in your game and you're in the middle of a
yeah,
match, then you need to channel your mental faculties because you're going to be sitting in a chair for a minute or so.
right.
You got to rechannel your mental faculties and envision things in your brain. You got to use your imagination. Close your eyes and envision those pleasant things in your game that you know were very positive. They were the three good tires. And if you do that, you'll come back to reality and you won't have to dwell on the pity party of that moment.
Right, right. That's great advice because I use that advice. You actually taught me that with the kicking and the banking and stuff
Yeah.
and Tim and I get to the table and I really focus and visualize what I want. And I remember years ago I also heard something where Tim said to me once, he said, if you lose for every reason there is to lose, then you don't have to lose for that reason anymore.
That's right.
So a
That's
lot of
exactly.
people that get upset, I say to them, hey, I'll give you a choice, right? You can miss that shot and be upset, or you can miss that shot, learn something and get better. Or you could win just because the person leaves the nine hanging. Which one would you rather, right? So
Yeah.
most people who want to get better are like, well, of course I choose to miss and learn. I'm like, well, then you're at that spot right now. So there's no reason to be upset because you just missed your shot.
Right.
But that is such great advice that you have with the visualization because your brain doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality. Just like when you
That's
think
correct.
about being scared because you're like, oh, I got to get on this plane and you get scared, it's because your body's reacting to the thoughts that you have. So when you're able to do what you're talking about, which of course you're able to do, it's definitely going to help. All right,
That's
we're
correct.
going to go to question 3. Our last question is, what's one piece of mental advice you wish you had known when you first started playing competitively?
Well, I think it goes back to the balls rolling and the sounds of them, the colors, but it's kind of summed up this way. I have a verse that I'm living by now. It's called "Play skillfully with a shout of joy." And the best advice I can give anybody in anything in life, it doesn't have to be on the pool table. It can be in your job, it can be in your relationships, it can be in a type of game you're playing that you're struggling with. But the main thing is to play it skillfully with a shout of joy. Now that last part of that is the key. If your heart is correct and you went over and hugged the dog instead of dwelling on the kicking of the dog, then what happens is this joy in your life enters your game, and then therefore you can transpose that through the brain and through the images and the right decisions to play better on and off the table then. And that's what players struggle with. particularly young players, we're very often we'll see somebody even in a match get upset, and that image goes into our brain. So what I try to do is I try to envision the times when I jumped up in the air and yelled hot dog when I used to be on ESPN. When I got inducted into the BC Hall of Fame in 2017, I actually got so excited. I had so much joy because after all those years of playing, all those years of with artistic pool, that special joy really kind of seared into my heart. And not just the fact that the award was given, but the most important thing is that I was allowed to experience on my time here on earth this time of joy playing the game that I love to play and doing it at such a level to where you get in a sense everybody wants to thank you or nice game, but I didn't look for that, but I got it anyway because I was dwelling on those sights and sounds of the balls, and in other words my focus was on the right thing. So for the young people, you've got to focus on the right thing. And it starts in what you're doing in your childhood, growing up, the people that your peer groups, hanging around with the people who are going to be positive, your mentors, those that will train you properly with good mechanics, even the mental game, because you're basically going to become an actor in this game. And you have a producer and many producers that want to give you and directors in your life that want to give you the right way to go. So there's a narrow way to go where you follow these specific things with the joy that you've got in your heart, or you can go and be sidetracked by all the things in this world that can sidetrack us, and then that'll mess you up. So I try to tell them to keep straight, find a good mentor, and stay with that person, and that's really going to help them.
Oh, that's great. That is really good advice because I really believe wholeheartedly in gratefulness and appreciation and
Yeah.
bringing that to what I do in the game. And I think that you're right. There's not a lot of talk about that because a lot of times people separate how they feel in life and then how they feel when they're at the table and what
Yeah.
they give in life and then what they can give at the table. And when people watch you play, they get that good feeling, like because you feel that way, right? That's always influenced me. And that's why you've gotten so many awards and you've gotten so many people to follow you and appreciate you, especially me. And you've taught me so much. And to this day, like when I go to the table just last week, I can do my three rail kicks and I can do all this. And I always tell people, well, I'm so lucky that I've known Dr. Cuse for like over 25 years and he's taught me all this stuff and everything you've ever taught me, I've always remembered and been able to do some crazy things because of the stuff that you guys have inspired me to do. And I've used a lot of that at the table. And so I want other people, up and coming players, juniors, to be able to get that feeling, like that excited feeling instead of the nervous feeling when they get there. And that gratefulness feeling like, wow, this is where I get to be. And I get to make this three reel kick shot. And whether it goes in or not, it doesn't matter because I'm going to really enjoy this shot and I'm
That's,
going to enjoy where I am and who I'm with and my opponent too. I enjoy everyone.
that's right.
And it's so great. And then sometimes like you make the shot, right? You make that last point. You're like, wow, like, I wonder if I was stressed out or I was pissed off or if I was somewhere else, if that would even happen, right? So these are all the reasons that I'm making this podcast and doing this so I can hear from people like you who are going to help so many players. And I'm definitely going to have you back because you have so much good stuff to share with everybody. And is there anything else you'd like to say, just like a positive note or something for you for the end of our session?
Two quick things, but number one is I want to congratulate you on those three cushion kicks, which is really difficult when there's four cushions on the table. So that in itself is quite an accomplishment because most people try a three cushion kick and they say, "Yeah, but there's four cushions. What do I do?"
Oh
But
my,
the bottom line is the thing I want to leave them with is this about a kind of a slogan in my life is rack up a victory in your game in life. Most players rack up a victory when they win a game on the table, which is interesting because they put the balls in the rack, they run the balls out or whatever, and then they rack them up again and they put the balls and they keep going back and forth. We really can't satisfy ourselves. If we just leave them on the table, you wouldn't have this problem like I did my whole life, okay? But we put them in the rack, they disappear, they put them back, and we do this whole scenario, this circle our whole life. And what we forget about is that kind of that mundane thing of going over and over again is joyful, but the most joyful thing you can have is when you rack up the victory in your life. And I just want to take everybody that's watching this and that will watch, I want them just to make sure that focus on those things in life that bring you the joy. If you get watered down or somebody wants to cut you down or bully you or whatever it is, focus on the joys that so many people want to give you. They're there and they will give them to you. And if nobody else wants, Stacy, I know will give it all the time. And you can always pick up the phone and call me. I'll get back to you. You can send me an email. Stacy, you got all that contact information.
yep.
So
I'll put
rack
that
up
in
a
the
victory in your
comments.
game in life. That's the most important thing you can do.
That's awesome. Okay, well, thank you. And then I will put your website and some information in the description
Okay.
of this so people can find you. And I appreciate so much you being here with us today.
Thank you, Stacy. You're wonderful. Thanks a bunch.